Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-around good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be breaking down the first trailer for the very exciting Star Wars Visions animated series that's going to be on Disney Plus very, very soon. We're also going to be looking back at the season 1 finale of The Bad Batch, as well as giving our thoughts on the entire season now that it has all aired. And we got Carl Weathers out there teasing season 3 of The Mandalorian, all that and so much more on this episode of the show. My name is Chris, and joining me, it's my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be doing a podcast at 9:30 p.m. as opposed to 4 a.m., which was the last time we recorded an episode. And I'm not entirely sure what happened. All I know is that when I came to log back in to do this episode, this guy, Yariel Poof with a mustache from Robot Chicken,
oh my goodness,
was my virtual background. And I'm not entirely sure how we got there, but I'm just going to leave it there and stick with it. But yeah, as you heard Chris say, lots of interesting stuff to get into this week. And if I could just ask one thing of Star Wars, just slow it down just a little bit, just a tiny bit. It's been less than a week, and we already have a new trailer, a new clip, and we still are processing the finale for the other show. Like, just give us a little bit more time to enjoy these things as they come out before bombarding us with what the next thing is. It reminds me of Celebration Orlando in 2017 when we were at the Rebels panel, and Dave Filoni gets up to make his heartfelt announcement that the series would be coming to an end after season 4. And the crowd goes, "Aw." And then there's a round of applause, a standing ovation celebrating the show. And then as soon as everybody sits down from that standing ovation celebrating the success of Star Wars Rebels, some guy yells from the back, "What's next?" And we're like, come on, just enjoy the final season. We don't have to know what's next yet. But that said, I'm very excited to talk Visions, very excited to talk Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, season 2, the finale special, the musical, the comic book novel, Broadway show, whatever else it is, and of course get into everything else that's going on. It's going to be a great show.
Heck yes. And also joining us, it's the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to be back on this, doing this thing again, officially now. It's great. And I was reminded earlier this week how I have wanted to be a YouTuber since literally I was 14 years old. All right. Because the kicker here is that I went back and looked at my own YouTube channel while we were doing stuff to our Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. And I see that my original username on YouTube was Big B 141. It's because I was 14. And I put a 1 on the end of it because apparently there was already a Big B 14 out there. And I had big aspirations, guys. Let me tell you, I had all kinds of ideas, and I made my own short films and stuff like that. I did it. It's out there. You will never see the light of day. You will never see it because humanity isn't ready for that. All right. But there was, I think, giant robot dog attacks Lego City, I think. And then there was how not to use a lightsaber, which is my personal favorite, which is just me in front of a camera swinging a lightsaber and then I hit myself on the balls. Yeah, it's a lot.
I think I've seen that.
I haven't seen that. Ben, bring that to the show and we will do a reaction video.
No, I'm deleting it. It's gone. It's still out there
We'll
somewhere.
find
You'll
this.
find it. Oh, God.
Oh yes, we will sick the internet dogs on you. By the way, I'm just gonna call you Big B for the rest of
Yeah.
of the time.
Yeah, that's
Big
fair
B.
enough. That's fair enough. I mean, I've been searching for this moment of my fame, my Big B fame. So I am the Big B. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Big B, the Star Wars guy.
It works. It still works.
I'm gonna change my.
gotta
That's what I'm doing on Twitter right now. I know what my new Twitter handle is.
There
Yay!
we go.
Hey!
We gotta change. We gotta change the song now too. We gotta get in there. I'll call up Dan who made the song. Get him to hit the studio again, re-record it. Oh,
Oh goodness, I've started
Oh.
something.
So we've alluded to it a few times. So if for some reason you haven't listened to the Star Wars Underworld podcast in a while, and this was the week that you decided, I'm going to catch up and see what's going on with Star Wars news, there's a big thing that you've missed that's happened. We're on YouTube now, which means you can not only listen to us on YouTube, but you can also watch us on YouTube. And there's a lot going on over there. Currently, there's a lot of charades going on with Ben and Dominic making hand signals as I talk, which you can only see on YouTube. So go search for the Star Wars Underworld on YouTube. Our channel will come up. Some of our more recent videos will come up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so that you don't miss when we go live. And please like our videos and leave some comments. Last week, I asked people to dress me and give me a color of shirt to wear. Purple is a very difficult color to find in one's wardrobe. I know I have one somewhere, but it's in like a storage unit somewhere. I'm still going to try to find it. And once I do, I promise I will wear it on the show. But until then, there's only one thing I can do, and it's turn my whole body purple. So you're missing
Thanos
this if you're
is
not
in the
watching. If you're not watching the video, I have purple skin now.
there you go.
And I hope that satisfies people until I can actually find the purple shirt.
I think you got to say I got you to say some Thanos lines. Say what's a good Thanos line? Run from it, dread it. Destiny
Run
always
from
arrives.
it.
This
Dread
does
it.
put a smile on my face.
Oh man.
There we go.
And now we're back to normal.
Back to normal, yeah.
That was fun.
I feel like we got to come up with another one, like for next week. What people should do to Ben, like what kind of hat should Ben wear, or
Yes.
what kind of hat?
I have a few. I don't have them with me currently. And I have a few surprises too. Might be able to surprise you with.
Someone everybody tell Ben to wear a top hat next week.
I don't. You're gonna make me go out and buy a top hat
Okay,
because I
that is
will
the
do
comment. That is the comment of the week. So if you're watching, leave a comment on the show, especially if you're watching later too. So we'll know that you're there. And because the likes, we don't know who's liking. The views, we don't know who's viewing. But when you comment, we'll recognize your name. And when we see you at Celebration, we'll be like, hey, we know you. You comment on our
I was
YouTube videos.
just
You're
saying
awesome.
before the
Here's
show
a
how
button.
this is getting out of hand. I haven't seen my barber in a little while, because the world. But I might need a hat next week anyway. So we'll see.
You're gonna have to go buy that top hat. We will make it happen. To everybody,
That's
tell
right.
Ben to wear a top hat, and just look at him. He's got the.
Look at me. Look at me.
He's got
You
the
can look
feet
at me
for it.
now. Look at this face. Look at this hat.
Yep.
I mean, you're not wearing a hat.
My
So-
head without a hat. My head. Blah.
So we're gonna get to our breakdown of Star Wars Visions trailer in
Oh, is that
just
what
a
we're supposed to
minute.
be doing?
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. That's what it says in the thumbnail. Everybody is like, "This is clickbait. Why are you talking about hats? We want to see you react to the Visions trailer." But
Got to get a Star Wars Visions hat, apparently.
yeah, that's right. So we'll do the plug super quick. Get through them. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs, so make sure that you subscribe if you're watching right now, and maybe share with your friends. Get them to subscribe too. We're super close. That's our goal. 1,000 subs. When we do, maybe we all wear top hats and monocles, and it'll be just like a grand old time at 1,000 subscribers because we'll have made it. Because that's the rule. When you get to 1,000 subs, you've made it. You've made it, kid.
I thought the rule was when you get to 1,000 subs, you have to wear a monocle just to show your status.
Yes. All people with 1,000 subscribers have to wear monocles. That's in the YouTube terms and conditions. We all agreed to it, even though it was on page 1,322 of the conditions that we all scrolled through. Also, this is not our only content on YouTube. We also have an exclusive show that we do for Patreon where we just talk about random stuff. There was some talk about Free Guy, some talk about the Suicide Squad. Dominic finally saw it, so we had his thoughts on that. There's a little bit of Marvel talk, but we're saving that kind of more for later shows. But you have a little bit of that. So to get those pre-shows, all you have to do is go over to patreon.com/the SWU and sign up for as little as $1 a month, whatever you want to give, whatever the least amount is that the site will let you, it'll get you in. And I think right now that's $1 is the minimum. So go over there at patreon.com/the SWU and you'll get the link to both watch the pre-shows live as we're recording them on YouTube and interact with us, as well as watching it later. Go over to tpublic.com/user/the Star Wars Underworld to get the last of our merch over there as we're transitioning over to another platform soon. swunderworld@gmail.com is where you can send us your listener feedback. And if you are listening on a podcast app still, thank you for your support. Please leave a review. That would be awesome. Dominic, we've got lots of Pod Force 99 content.
Yeah, that we do. So our finale, our season 1 finale of Pod Force 99 was released this week. And we've already talked about it a little bit, but it was our video reaction to the season 1 finale that we recorded literally at 3:30 a.m. Eastern last week. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. It was me, it was Chris, it was Hannah from Star Wars Culture. We had some live calls, and we tried to make sense of the episode, and we worked through it sort of in real time. And it was a lot of fun. It was a very interesting experiment that we did. And I don't know if I have the mental stamina to do it again, but who knows? When Book of Boba Fett comes out, we may be right back where we were. So check it out. It's in your feeds if you want, or it's on the YouTube channel. It was a great conversation. Go listen or watch or somehow do both. Not really, just
at the same time.
That's right. Go stream it on Spotify while you're watching it on YouTube and see if you can sync it up just right. I don't know why, but just do it. It's an experiment.
That sounds super fun. And speaking of great YouTube content, I believe this is the week when IPC returns.
Yeah, and we're talking about something that no one else is talking about this week: Star Wars: The Bad Batch. So tune in for that. Just head over, just go up to the top of the screen and just type in not right now, but later after this is done, go up to fandom, just type in Fandom Empire, you'll find it, or Intergalactic Peace Coalition, or however you find it. We're gonna be talking about Bad Batch and a lot more, and you'll see my face again if you want for some reason to do that again tomorrow night about this time.
Will you be wearing a top hat?
I will not confirm nor deny that. You'll just have to tune in and find out.
A monocle, though, yes. Because Fandom
I'm just going
Empire,
to cut my glasses in half. I'll have a monocle.
I believe over at Fandom Empire, y'all are at 1,000 subs, so you are required legally to wear a monocle.
Okay, all right. I did not get that memo. No one told me that.
You're breaking the law.
Told Zach either. So
the internet cops will show up and
FBI, open up!
Force you to wear a monocle because.
What are you wearing? Well, that's a little inappropriate. Please don't ask those questions.
All right.
With a gold satin robe.
All right. Let's get into the news, and we will start this week with Star Wars Visions. And I think to kick off our conversation about it, we should rewatch the trailer, the English trailer, all together. Let's go. Chad.
Long ago, a great warrior came to this village and entrusted our ancestors with this. Its power and responsibility now lie with you. guided by the Force since you were born.
At last, the moment arrives.
It's the first time I've confronted such darkness. Something ancient and sinister.
We're going to be a proper family.
Let's make this our best show ever!
コースと共にあらんこと。
I accept this responsibility.
There it is. There it is. The trailer for Star Wars Visions. You can actually watch the trailer in Japanese. That is available on the official Star Wars YouTube channel.
Yep.
As Matthew in our chat is pointing out, obviously we had to show it in English for the podcast. I think none of us speak Japanese, and subtitles don't really work in an audio medium.
Right.
It's quite a trailer. It's hard to really. For me, it's hard to really say anything about it because I think it looks good. I think it looks really cool, and I'm totally brought in by the visuals and what we're seeing here. And I'm really excited to watch this show. But it's hard to analyze because it's not like the Book of Boba Fett or the Bad Batch or anything like that, because it's all just sort of random imagery, and I'm not really sure what to make of any of it as as individual pieces. Like, we can look at a frame of a trailer from The Mandalorian and go, okay, this is interesting. It's like we've got like Din here and Baby Yoda there, and it's all coming together, and it suggests that really in season 3 we'll be seeing the Empire brought into the story in a much bigger way. Can't really do that with this. So you can't really go through it frame by frame, or I don't know how to, but I look at it as an entire entity and I go, oh yeah, this is going to be cool. The September 22nd is going to be a fun day of Star Wars watching.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm on board. I'm hooked. I think this is going to be exciting, but let's get some more reaction. Chris, why don't you tell us what you thought of it?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like all the inference about the story is coming from those kind of panels that were done over the summer, where we got and some articles that came out. Like, that's where all that information is coming. What we really wanted to see on top of that was the visuals. Like, what is this thing going to look like? What is going to be the visual and audio tone of this series? That was what we were missing. And now we finally have that. And it looks like it was advertised as. I mean, that is anime. That is Japanese animation, and several different kind of styles of it too. I mean, some of the stuff looks kind of like really desaturated and highly detailed, kind of almost like a graphic novel, kind of like manga. And then some of it looks like very kind of simple and cartoony, kind of more of a Studio Ghibli type look. There was one, I think it's the one about the band, that has like really a lot of realism in the animation of the environments. And that one is super interesting, because when I saw that shot of the stadium for Bunta Eve, the Tatooine Padres Stadium, right, I was like, wait a minute, is that live action? Like, wait, it's so incredibly hyper realistic for that type of animation. So it's really cool to see that there's all these different visual art styles, which I would expect nothing else. I think that's the reason why they went to multiple studios to make these episodes instead of just one, to have them all look different. And they all look different, and it's super cool. And it's definitely got that anime tone to it. And that's awesome. So this is as good as I could have imagined it in my head being. And I agree. I'm so excited for the day that this stuff comes out.
Yeah. Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it looks amazing. Like, it's kind of what I expected, but I don't know what I was expecting. Like, I've seen clips of anime, I've seen a little bits and pieces, and I know the general like look and feel of anime, and this is definitely right along those lines. But it's definitely with a Star Wars flair. And you watch this, you're like, this is not something I really recognize, but also it is something I recognize. It is lightsabers, blasters, a freaking lightsaber umbrella, a droid with a Gatling gun, like all the stuff that were kind of familiar imagery that was this kind of like, heightened, all kinds of stuff going on with this, kind of, I don't know, what do you call it, this atmosphere that you're familiar with. Even people that haven't watched anime like me know that kind of feel that it has. And so like, it looks like stunningly amazing. Like all the stuff is great. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing like getting into like each episode, seeing how it plays out. And as we keep alluding to, like the voice cast is phenomenal. I was very surprised with some of the people that showed up in there, and looking forward to seeing like how this all plays out and like what different episodes. And because like it's very foreign, just like chopped up. This is a very fast trailer, very fast paced, fast edited trailer.
Yeah, it's clearly about giving us, as we've said, it's a taste of the visuals. It's about showing you like this is what you're going to see on I think it's September 22nd, I believe is the day that it comes out, as opposed to, again, like some of the film trailers or the other TV shows trailers where it's like, here's a little taste of the story, here's what's going to be happening. There's almost no sense of story in any of this. It's just all, here's the visuals, here's what it's going to look like, here's Star Wars as you've never seen it before.
And that's what I've really been missing with Star Wars lately. Like when you go back to the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars micro series from the 2000s, it was very visually focused. Like there were some episodes where there's barely any dialogue, and it was all about the sound effects and the visuals. There even were spots where there wasn't much music, and that carried the show, was just how cool and interesting that Genndy Tartakovsky visuals were. And I feel like as Star Wars has progressed in animation, it's gotten more into like really in-depth character-based stories, which is great. But it definitely, you have to focus on something. It's hard to focus on everything at once. And when you're really focused on character-based stories, especially like they are with the Bad Batch, like they were with Resistance, Rebels, and towards the end of the Clone Wars, it's kind of, you don't have as many of those moments where it's just like, all right, here's 5 minutes of visuals. And those are some of the best moments of when animation was anthological with the Clone Wars series. Like imagine like, those opening scenes of the Umbara arc, or landing at Point Rain in the Geonosis arc, where it was just like, all right, here you're coming into a battle, you're coming in from space and you're landing on a planet, and it's just, not a lot of dialogue, just visual coming after you. Like that Star Wars can really blow our minds with that. I mean, going back to A New Hope, there wasn't a lot of dialogue at the beginning of A New Hope. It was that big Star Destroyer coming over the screen after the Tantive 4. So I just love that this series is like all about the uniqueness of the visuals, because it's something that I think Star Wars does really well, and it's something that they haven't been doing a lot lately. And yeah, I love that this is the focus of the show. I think it's really cool.
I think Joel in the chat brings up a great point about, like, he says Star Wars animation these days wants to be live action. I think it forgets its animation. And I totally I personally, as a kind of traditional, content consumer, I like live action stuff. And I like when animation is more grounded. I like Clone Wars and even Bad Batch and Rebels when it would lean towards more like realistic, not just in visuals, but also in how it was paced and stuff like that. So I like that, but it's a medium that you can literally do anything you want, literally anything. And it's almost a waste of the medium if you're just going to go, okay, we're going to do this story, but we're going to make sure it's live action. I think that's a benefit to animation. I think that's why all Star Wars animation has been so strong, because it feels like the movies. It manages to capture that feeling and transfer it into animation. But it's also nice when you have Tartakovsky's Clone Wars or this where it's completely different. It's not worrying about the laws of physics or what is considered, normal or grounded or whatever. It's just,
or canon.
Right. Like, it doesn't care. And no, you know what? I don't care either. And I think people that are on the internet now, especially are like, we want something different. We don't want, we hate the sequel trilogy because it was too derivative. Like, here you go. This is where we're going with this. This is something completely different. We've never seen anything like this before, and I'm all here for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And I love that they're doing, I love the idea of doing something like Visions and potentially doing more of it, whether it's Japanese or other art influences, where it's just like, okay, here is just a show of Star Wars of new visuals. We're not worrying too much about the stories, although I suspect we will see some great stories in here. But the idea of just sort of going like, let's just step away from making sure that everything feels big and important and part of the ongoing story. I'm not expecting a tie-in to explain how Palpatine cloned himself for the Rise of Skywalker in this, right? There's not going to be that sort of end of the season scene that sets up something for the future. It's just, here's some fun Star Wars, looking different, looking cool, telling some mini stories. And I hope this is something they can do more of in addition to, doing stuff like the Bad Batch and the Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian that moves the larger quote unquote story forward. So I think there's room for both, and we should have both going forward. And this is a good step in that direction. Yeah. We've mentioned the cast several times. Let's go through the English cast again. They've revealed the Japanese cast as well, but I'm just going to go through the English one because I don't think any of us have heard of anybody in the.
It would be just us not knowing a lot of these people and butchering all of their names. And I don't think you guys want to hear that. It's online. I'm sure in Japan they're probably huge names, but here, different culture.
Yeah. So in the duel, we have Brian T as Ronan, Lucy Liu from Elementary as Bandit Leader, Jaden Waldman as Village Chief. Then in Tatooine Rhapsody, we have Joseph Gordon-Levitt, of course, best known for playing the parking complaining guy in the Last Jedi.
I told those two us it's a public beach thing, supposed to park here.
Yeah, that guy. He's playing Jay. Bobby Moynihan from Star Wars Resistance is playing Geezer. Tamura Morrison returning as Boba Fett. Shelby Young, who has done a bunch of Leia voices, is K344. Awesome. Yeah. Mark Thompson, legend of Star Wars audiobooks, is voicing Lan. And then we have in the twins some American sitcom royalty here with Neil Patrick Harris from How I Met Your Mother as Kare, and Allison Brie from Community as Am. Awesome. And then Jonathan Lippo as B20N. Then we have The Village Bride with Karen Fukuhara from The Boys as F, Nicole Sakura from Superstore as Haru, Kazuda Ziono himself, Christopher Sean as Asu, Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa as Valko, Andrew Kashino, aka Saw Gerrera on the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, is Izuma, Stephanie Shea is Saku. And we got the Ninth Jedi, Kimoko Glenn as Kara, Andrew Kashino back as Juro, Simu Liu, aka Shang-Chi, or if you prefer, Jong from Kim's Convenience, as Zima, Masu Oka as Ethan, Greg Chun as Rodin, Neil Kaplan as narrator, and Michael Sinterniklas as Henjin. Then in TOB1, we got Jaden Waldman as the aforementioned TOB1, and Kyle Chandler as Mitaka. In the Elder, David Harbour. That's a stranger.
Yeah. Who's that?
That guy.
That's a strange name.
Yeah, as Tajin, Jordan Fisher as Dan, and James Hong as the Elder.
Did James Hong returning champion.
Who is he?
Do I have to say it? As Morrigan.
Oh, is he really? I did not Did not know that. Well,
I guess he's not watching this show anymore.
yeah. Which who was that? Which one was that? Who was that?
James Hong.
James Hong. Okay. Well, man's probably very talented and can do other things. So
he's been in everything. Like, he's a very talented actor. I don't think as Morgan is like at the top of his IMDb. So I don't think it's not a big deal.
Then we got Lop and Ocho in that show. We've got Anna Cathcart as Lop, Hiromi Dames as Ocho, Paul Nakauchi as Yasaburo, and Kyle McCarley as Imperial Officer. Then in Akakiri, we've got Henry Golding from Crazy Rich Asians as Tsubaki, Jamie Chung as Misa, George Takei, aka Lot Durd in is that Lot Durd? Yeah, it was Lot Durd.
Yeah.
In the Clone Wars. That's who he's best known.
We will exfoliate them
as Senshu, Hyun Young as Kamahashi,
who was what's his name? Rebels, the Admiral guy, Rebels Admiral.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And Lorraine Toussaint as Masago. There you go. That's a cast. That is one hell of a cast. There's some names in there. We've gone through that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good stuff. So that's what we have to look forward to. This show is going to be quite something. So that's Star Wars Visions. Anything else you guys want to say about Visions before we move off of it and get into some Bad Batch?
I'm just excited that this door is being opened back to anthology Star Wars and also to, Infinity stuff that's beyond canon.
Yeah.
Because, it's something, again, that I've been missing since the Clone Wars ended. So, yeah, I hope that this is just the beginning of many, many more stories for perhaps different parts of the world and different studios and just different eras in Star Wars and different twists on the Star Wars lore. Like this is just such a massive sandbox. This is probably the biggest sandbox that Star Wars has ever had to play in ever. It's like there's so many options for where things can go from this series forward, and it's really exciting to see them do this. And yeah, I'm so hyped.
Ben?
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree I agree that, like, I'm looking forward to seeing like where this goes, because I don't know what to expect. I don't know what any of these things are going to be, what they're actually going to be about. And, we've got limited information already. So like you're seeing stuff in motion is great, but like actually sitting down and watching and seeing how long they are, it's going to be great.
Yeah. I think it's going to be so fun to see a different take on Star Wars. Star Wars does visual storytelling when it's at its best. It does it so well, and it'll be great to see that translated into a way that we haven't seen before, and see how they tell some great small stories in this new format. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see it, and I can't wait to see a Star Wars rock opera. Still waiting on that. Yeah. That's still the one I'm most looking forward to, and I think that's the one that Tamora Morrison is in. And
that's the Boba Fett. I think Jabba the Hutt's supposed to be in there too. I guess he doesn't have any lines because he's not voiced.
Yeah,
or maybe they'll just use existing stuff for Jabba.
Maybe. But I want to hear Tem sing. I want to hear him sing in Star Wars.
Yes, please sing in a hot tub.
Hell yeah.
Thank
you. All right, so let's move on from Visions and let's talk a little Bad Batch, seeing as we have been it's been a week. It's been a week since we last saw our notable band of heroes, of clones with desirable mutations, as they say, and let's actually talk about it when we're not trying to stay awake. Let's talk about it while we're awake. So let's go over the finale again, and then I want to talk about the season as a whole. And Ben, since you missed our ridiculous live stream, let's throw it to you first. What did you think of the season 1 finale of the Bad Batch?
Yeah, anybody that watched our previous episode and saw me doing this constantly could probably guess that I wasn't gonna make that 3 a.m. show. So yeah, but it looked like a lot of fun. I did enjoy watching it later. And like I enjoyed this finale a lot. I get some people were like, it's not as strong as the previous episode. Maybe should have been a 2-parter, like back to back. I get that. I did enjoy the previous episode more. I think it's probably that second to last episode is probably one of my favorite of the season, if not my favorite. But I think it ended strong. What I liked about it was the fact that it wasn't pulling a Rebels or anything like that. It wasn't like, oh, we're leading up to this and oh, someone's gonna save us. I thought, okay, we're coming back. It's gonna be, Cut and Rex and Gregor and Ahsoka, and they're all gonna show up in a big submarine, and they're gonna save the day. That
Yellow submarine.
You can see that coming a mile away, and I'm glad that it wasn't like that. It wasn't thing. And going into it, I'm like, I don't want a cameo. We've had enough this season. I love the cameos that we got. I love the guest stars. I don't want that. I want it to be focused on these characters. I think it did it exceptionally well. I think putting them together, manufacturing a scenario where the Bad Batch couldn't, and Crosshair couldn't kill each other. They couldn't shoot at each other. They just had to survive and stay together and talk. Like, that's brilliant storytelling, I think, and putting them two together and still ending with Crosshair going like, nah, I'm here. I'm where I need to be. And, finishing that off, it would have been so easy. And you're watching the episode, and every time I watch the episode, I'm like, just get on the ship, Crosshair. What are you doing? And you see on his face, like, that's not someone who is confident in what they're doing. He's very conflicted. You see the animated face of him just like so conflicted. It's so compelling, but you understand like that's where he needs to be. And he knows that, but he doesn't want to accept it. I think it was a great way to end the season. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff going on. We've got freaking Mount Tantus at the end. Okay, that's happening apparently. A lot of stuff. I'm glad we're getting a season 2 because a lot of unanswered questions. But I think for season 1, I think this is one of the strongest seasons of Star Wars television, in my opinion.
I'm feeling more and more like I got to do a Thrawn trilogy reread. I think I gotta go back to that. Chris, what about you? Now that we've had a week to process this thing instead of trying to process it in real time as we did last week, how are you feeling about the finale?
I don't know. I'm a fast processor, so I haven't changed my opinions much. I still think that it was kind of a little bit underwhelming. I still am excited for the future of the show, but I do wish that we had moved a little bit quicker through the story in season 1. I feel like the characters are still in kind of a really similar spot to where they were a few weeks ago. And so now they've got to be developed a lot in season 2, and a lot of things are probably going to have to change then. So it makes me excited for season 2 because there's so much left to do, but it does make me feel a little not satisfied with season 1. Like, I wish they had taken things a little bit further than they did with either the plot or the characters or both. But yeah, the Mount Tantus thing's super exciting. Seeing what the heck the Empire has up their sleeve with cloning is very curious. I hope it's Illibis. That would be so cool. But in general, I'm excited for the future of this show. It was as a whole, the season was definitely good. Like, there was not many episodes that were like terrible. Most of the episodes were okay, or from okay to solid to really, really good. I think that at its worst, the show was still very watchable, still very entertaining. And so I think that's good for a first season. And like, you look at the first season of the Clone Wars show, like, you definitely had some hit or miss moments in there, but it was pretty much watchable throughout. And I would say the same about this. So from certain perspectives, like the visuals, the quality of the show absolutely knocked it out of the park. When you're looking beyond just the script of the show, like the way that it was put together, the music of the show, absolutely fantastic. I think season 1 really knocked it out of the park with a lot of the other aspects of what makes a series, other than just kind of what the story is. But yeah, I just want to see more from the story. I want to see where things go from here. I still feel like there's a lot to do with these characters than what they've done so far.
Yeah, I for me the finale, I thought what I said on Thursday/Friday, I still stand by it. I think choosing to end the season by just focusing in on the Bad Batch themselves and not doing what people have sort of come to expect from finales, which is throw in a big cameo, right? Like that.
Right.
I kind of worry sometimes that we've lost the ability to just watch and enjoy stuff. Because you see this with all the Marvel shows, you see this with all the Star Wars shows, basically any show that's part connected to a larger universe. When the finale rolls around, it almost feels like it's less about wrapping up the story that we've just watched in a satisfying way, and more about who else from the universe can we throw into this story. And
right,
you know, I loved that this episode bucked that trend and just said, you know what? No, this is a show about Hunter, Omega, Crosshair, Wrecker, Tech, and Echo, and those are pretty much the only characters we're going to see in this episode. And we're just gonna spend all of our time with them, and hopefully that'll be enough. And for me, it was it the greatest finale I've ever seen, the greatest episode I've ever seen? No, I give it like an 8 out of 10, somewhere in that range. I enjoyed it. But I like that it leaned into that side of the story and just said, let's end this story in an interesting way with the characters that got us to this point. And I think that really worked. One other thing that I wanted to highlight in the finale, we talk a lot about the voice acting and the visuals and the music, but the sound design, sound design in this episode, it was absolutely incredible. David Collins and Matt Wood and everybody that worked on this episode. I apparently David Collins said somewhere that like he wanted, when Camino is drowning, he wanted or being bombarded, he wanted it to sound like an animal was dying, like the city was dying. And you can really hear it in that episode. And just throughout the episode, the sound, whether it's sort of the ticking in the soundtrack as Crosshair looks like he's about to die in that early on when he's trapped under the thing, under the beam. It's all so good, and it does such a good job at telling the story. So overall, I think that there's so much more to love in this finale than there is. And I've seen where people are saying like, oh, it was a boring finale. I saw on TikTok people were complaining about it. And I'm like, no, this is this is how we should tell stories. Not everything has to include Luke showing up at the end. Well, when they do that, that's cool too.
It's funny you made a connection to the Marvel shows. Like I think Loki pretty much did the same thing. I won't give any spoilers if you haven't seen it, but like that show had like second to last episode, big finale, battle and whatever. And then the last episode was just people talking and no big previously established cameos or anything. It was just there. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great way to do it. I think Bad Batch doing basically the same thing in a way, just making the characters sit around and talk and not necessarily saying, oh yeah, we've got to end it with like a big battle and they got to fight it out and then there's thing and then someone goes in and saves the day and it's all this. No, that's not how it needs to happen. Yes, it's great. I loved like ending of season 1 of Star Wars Rebels. That's a great finale. Like Fire Across the Galaxy, one of my favorite Star Wars episodes of all time. And having Ahsoka and Vader show up at the end is like perfect. Like it's great, but you don't need that in every finale. And I think Bad Batch bucking that trend, like you're saying, going like, okay, we're gonna focus on the characters. It's called the Bad Batch. You guys were complaining a few episodes ago that the Bad Batch weren't in this show, and now they're in it. Now they're the only characters in it. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Let's make the Bad Batch about the Bad Batch, and that's what this show it needs to do. And one of the things that I'm looking for in season 2 is getting deeper into some of the other members of the Bad Batch. Yeah, I feel like this first season did an excellent job at telling a story about Hunter, telling a story about Omega, telling a story about Crosshair, and telling a story about Wrecker.
Yeah,
I need more from Echo and Tech.
Yes.
Yeah. Echo especially was just like, disappointingly in the background most of the time. Like anytime he was like, there was the second to last episode was like, he was kind of like taking the charge going into the area. I'm like, oh, he's going to get his moment. He didn't get anything. Like, you know, and Echo just has such this amazing history. And you can say, oh, well, he's had all his screen time, but like, this is where I want him to be. I want his perspective on all this. And the fact that they kind of glossed over his knowing about what happened to Fives. Like there's so much stuff. And AZ's now in the picture. AZ maybe forgot his memory, but was with Fives when he dies. Like there's so much there that they haven't done with. And I was very disappointed by that.
Yeah. They did with the Rebels season 2, they did a good job having kind of at least one episode about each of the characters in the Ghost Crew. Like I remember there was like an episode about Hera's, episode about Sabine, there's an episode about Zeb. Like they did a good job of doing that. So I feel like Filoni, you know, does understand, you know, and to kind of take a step back and develop those characters in kind of like J.J. Abrams Lost type way. Like here's kind of the backstory. And I'm kind of interested that it's kind of interesting they didn't do that in season 1. I remember with Rebels, I wished that season 1 was longer and we got some of those season 2 character development episodes in season 1. I remember that was one of the pacing issues that I had with the show. And this is something that, again, we have with some of these characters with the Bad Batch, which is kind of unfortunate. But I think if they get to it at the beginning of the season, we hopefully can develop these characters that we haven't seen much of yet and their actual like backstories and motivations to a point where when we get to major stuff happening to them, we'll have more of an emotional connection to them. Because like that's the problem that you get. Like, you know, we at this point kind of, it seems to be the general consensus that Tech's kind of annoying. And like, if he were to die, people wouldn't really care. And why is that? Well, because they haven't given us an episode to really show us why we should like him. Like we haven't gone into his story. Like, is there some tragic reason why he's so annoying? Like, I want to see that. And that's important because, you know, you have to care about all of the characters. You can't just have some of them be annoying cardboard characters and then just not care. Like, it's hard to tell good stories with characters like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The challenge, though, that I think this show is going to face that Rebels didn't, in terms of doing those episodes about Tech and Echo and everybody else in the second season, is that Rebels was designed to have backstory episodes as part of its DNA, because it was 5 characters that were brought together, or 6 characters, 7, I don't know. It was a bunch of characters.
How many characters is Chopper, and does the ghost count?
It was a bunch of characters that were brought together by, you know, their need to fight the Empire, their desire to take down the Empire, and they all had unique backstories. They all came from different places. So you could do an episode about Zeb where we learned a little bit about the Lasat people, or we could do stuff with Sabine where we got into some Mando stuff. We could do stuff with Hera where we met Cham and talked about her wanting to grow up to be a pilot and all that stuff. You can't, it's harder to do that. I won't say you can't do it, but it's harder to do that on the Bad Batch because with the exception of Echo and I guess Omega, all these guys have been together all the time. So all the characters know each other. They all have their backstory is all roughly the same. And so if you want to do an episode that really highlights Tech, you have to come up with a completely new reason. You can't just say, well, this episode ties into something in his backstory. There's something that this guy experienced that he needs to relive in some way, because that likely everything he's experienced was also experienced by at least one of Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, and potentially even Echo at this point. So that's going to be a challenge. And so I hope they find a way to do it. I hope they show us those things, because that was something I was missing from this season, was a chance to get to know all of the members of the batch, and they all need to have their own thing. And I think Echo, we kind of see a little bit of what his thing is going to be. He's going to be the rebellion guy. He was the one constantly saying, no, let's get in touch with Rex. Let's work with Rex. And actually I'll shout out my friend Kareem, who was on the, who called into the early morning reaction show. He has a theory that Echo will be the source of the name for Echo Base.
Ooh, I love that.
Okay, you just blew my mind. Okay, yeah. I love that. I'm going to be really disappointed if it doesn't happen. Thanks, Kareem.
You have ideas that are too good.
Yeah, I want that to happen. Like, sometimes sometimes they like force in original trilogy connections, and I'm like, I don't need that. But that one I think that one could really work. Ben, let me ask you this: what are you looking for in season 2? What are your hopes for where you think the show needs to go and what it needs to do more of, and what you'd like to see more of?
A 20-year time jump, and then Echo, the Bad Batch discovering Echo Base and then naming after Echo. That's what I want from season 2.
Yes.
You just got me that. No, I think, I want them to continue this. Obviously, we're gonna get more cameos. Boba Fett is gonna show up. Ahsoka is definitely gonna show up. Like, there's some inevitabilities to the cameos and guest stars we're gonna get season 2, 3, 4 if we get that far. But I do want just more depth these characters and them finding a purpose. And also, we have Crosshair still out there. I think I like where they left Crosshair. It would have been very easy for him to just get on the ship and go with them. I think leaving him out there to kind of go back, and now we're going to see like maybe a true redemption story. I know we talk a lot about redemption in Star Wars, but redemption in Star Wars usually is person does a lot of bad things for a really long time, and then they do one good thing, and then they die. That's usually redemption in Star Wars. And a lot of people were predicting that, what if Crosshair dies? And I never wanted any of these characters to die. I think they have a lot of breathing room, and there's a lot of stuff to happen yet. I think Crosshair having a dual story on. I love the episodes of this show in season 1 where they went back to Crosshair and they were kind of showing his point of view, what he was doing. I think one of the best episodes is when he goes to thing and he wipes out a bunch of Saw Gerrera's people. Like, that's an intense episode, but it's getting his side of the story. And, and then just in this finale, like understanding his point of view, even though he's wrong, we understand where he's coming from. We understand, it made you think about like, what is he? He's not right, but it's like, it's the meme of he's out of line, but he's right. Like, it's the thing. So I want more of that. I want more kind of parallel storylines showing what Crosshair, because ultimately what Hunter said is true. Like, they're going to screw Crosshair over. They're going to throw him away. And he's going to find out the hard way that the Empire doesn't care about him, even though he cares about the Empire. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that is explored in season 2 or maybe even season 3.
Yeah. There was a moment with Crosshair that I caught more on the rewatch of the episode than I did the first time. And it made me sort of rethink how they leave Crosshair at the end of the episode. And that's in his sort of final heroic moment in the episode when he saves AZ3 and he gets out his gun and he points it into the sea. And at first it looks like he's just pointing it at Hunter and he's going to take out Hunter. Right. Then he saves Omega and he saves AZ. And then we show the rest of the batch, and Echo, Tech, and Wrecker are all pointing their guns at him.
Yeah. I noticed that.
And I feel like Crosshair in that moment is thinking, they may be offering me the chance to come back, but I can't really come back. They won't trust me. They don't trust me. They don't trust me to do the right thing. So I can't come back. And so I think there's kind of another side to this story. Not just Crosshair has to realize that the Empire is bad and that he should fight against the Empire. He has to also feel like he can come back and can be redeemed. And that's something that's in the Vader story as well. In Return of the Jedi, Vader says to Luke, it's too late for me, son. And that line has always haunted me because it sounds like it's Vader saying, yes, I know I'm doing the wrong thing, but I can't get out of this. And I feel like Crosshair is in a similar situation where even if he wanted to leave the Empire, he doesn't feel he can go back to the Bad Batch because they don't trust him or they won't trust him. And so the rest of the Bad Batch, I think, have to also learn to trust Crosshair again if they can. And that's going to be, I think, has to be part of their journey in season 2 and beyond, potentially, if redemption is to be on the table truly for Crosshair, or at the very least some kind of return to the Bad Batch. Maybe not redemption. Maybe redemption is possible in some other way other than returning to the Bad Batch. But if he wants to return to the Bad Batch, that has to be part of it. Is they have to be ready to accept him back. And that's not always easy, right? Like when somebody has broken your trust, it's not easy to start trusting them again.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a pretty interesting theme and a pretty interesting idea that they could play with in season 2 and beyond if they want to. If they really want to get Crosshair to come back and be the 5th or 6th member of the Bad Batch, then that's something that has to be explored in addition to him realizing on his own terms that he wants to come back.
Yeah.
Right. And I love the whole idea that it was represented with like their thing, and like I guess a kind of a big metaphor for kind of the relationship between Crosshair and Bad Batch is like they kind of wrote him off and said, okay, he's lost. You know, and Crosshair's like, you know, you have this thing where he's out there and they've tried to save him and they can't or whatever.
Yeah.
But then they ultimately come back. He's like, we're connected. We're brothers. Like, this is who we are. I love the whole idea behind that. Like, they're still connected no matter what they do, no matter how far apart they get, they still have to share the galaxy with one another, and they're still brothers.
Yeah.
And I love that metaphor. And it's a great metaphor for life. Like, you think about it, like there's a lot of people in this world I don't agree with. A lot of them are on Twitter and I block them. Twitter. Yeah, most of them are on Twitter and I block them, but I'm living on the same planet with them. I'm still a fellow human. I still have to share this planet with them, and that's not going to happen. The only way to move forward is to try to find common ground and to accept that, okay, we disagree on this. That's okay. But I understand there is lines, and it's a big question, not just with real life, with Crosshair. Like, he did some pretty horrible things and he doesn't seem to be sorry about them. How do you move forward with someone like that? How do you, rectify that? How do you deal with someone who is wrong, is doing bad things, and doesn't think they're wrong? Like, that's the whole thing. So I love that whole dynamic across here. Again, season 2, I hope they go more into this, figuring this out and diving more deep into Crosshair. Because I think for me, I didn't get enough Crosshair in this season. I think the ending was great, but I still wanted more of him overall, and I hope we get more of him in season 2.
Yeah, I'm glad that they've kept Crosshair as part of this story. Like, to have killed him off would have been a giant waste. Would have been a giant waste of potential. And now we could see something different, something new, something we're not exactly used to seeing in Star Wars. And I hope that that's on the table for season 2. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. This season could be a little bit uneven in some places, but overall, I feel like the creators have certainly earned our trust, or at least earned mine, that they know what they're doing, that they're telling a compelling, interesting story. And I like this. I see Dr. Holocron throwing in Crosshair teaming up with Crimson Dawn for a bit. That's something let's talk a little bit about season 2. Like, what are we talked about this on the stream, so we'll go to you first again, Ben. Like, what are you hoping to see? What are the things you'd like? Just from purely from like a fan perspective of like, just let's see more of this part of the universe or that part of the universe.
Well, I think one thing I think lacked in this season is I want to see more clones. I want to see, we heard, what was it?
Cody.
Maybe it was Cody. Yeah, you're just reading my mind here, Cody, because I think, what was it? I think it's the Kenobi rumors that we're talking about, Cody or something like that. And maybe that got mixed up with Bad Batch, and that, I don't know if even any of that is true, but like, I love the idea of like Cody showing up in this show. And like, there was people talking about that Crosshair in the dark armor could be Cody. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to be the correct, because like, if it's Cody, they're going to show that it's Cody. It looks like Cody. Yeah. But like, that's great. But there's a ton of other clones out there. What happened to Dogma? What happened to that guy from the Battle of Umbara? This guy who was so disillusioned and followed orders and then realized he was wrong. Like, what happened to that guy? There's so many others. And apparently Kix is out there in a freaking a block of carbonite somewhere. I want to know the rest of that story.
Yeah.
But there's so many different clone stories, and yes, he did a great job. That we got Cut, we got Gregor, we got new ones like Hauser, which was great. And I want to see more of him. I want to see what happens to him, obviously, but more of the clone story, because I think Bad Batch did great in the fact that it continued Clone Wars, but it was even more clone centric than Clone Wars was. In fact, the Clone Wars just went off. Oh, here's Ahsoka doing an adventure or whatever like that. Here's a bunch of droids off on this void planet. Like, it did things like that, whereas Bad Batch was focused on the clones, their experience, what happens to these soldiers after a war. And now that we have this whole hanging thread with Mount Tantus, apparently, and all the clones, the fact that they didn't just leave Camino, they destroyed Camino, and then they're like, where are the clones? They don't know what happened to them. I love that. Hopefully, we're going to get an answer to that and getting more of that. But yeah, a Boba Fett versus Cad Bane, that would be great too in season 2.
See, this is what I want. I want more underworld characters. So I know I want more of Fennec Shand. I want more Boba Fett. I want more Cad Bane. Just anybody. A Bosk would be super cool. IG-88 would be awesome. Where's Dengar? How about some Dengar? Like, all of them. Let's have some 4LOM. Let's have some Zuckuss. Let's have them get confused and people think one is the other. That would be a really fun reference. Yes, that's true. Yeah, but especially now that we have this whole like Alpha and Omega thing going on with Omega and Boba Fett. You know they have to meet each other. You know that Boba Fett and Omega have to cross paths. There has to be some type of story there. It may not catapult all the way into the sequel era, but at least in this era, I think that's a really interesting dynamic. And I think it's really curious because Omega has a lot of compassion. Like, look at the amount of compassion that Omega has for Crosshair. How might Omega feel about Boba Fett? I think that's a really interesting story. And we see Boba Fett kind of being a little bit of a good guy when we get to the Mandalorian era. Maybe some of those seeds of redemption was planted by Omega. I think that's super interesting. And, you know, I'm seeing in the chat all these other fantastic ideas. Doc Holocron, and this has been mentioned many times, Crimson Dawn. Yes, let's tie into Solo more. Let's see Kira. I think that would be super, super fascinating. And, of course, Quinlan Voss. Yeah. Always.
Well, yeah, and that's something, actually, I'll give a shout out to my buddy Jeffrey White, who was on his podcast talking about this very subject, the Bad Batch hype function. And I mentioned, we talked about it on there, like, I want the Bad Batch to, like, encounter a Jedi. I want that to be, like, them, not Ahsoka, another Jedi.
No, it has to be Ahsoka. There's the laws.
I know.
The laws of Star Wars.
Filoni. Preferably Quinlan Voss, but literally anyone. Even make up a new Jedi. Like, there's thousands of Jedi. Like, we're after Order 66. Like, we're supposed to believe that all these Jedi survived Order 66 through books, comics, whatever. Cal Kestis is out there. All these guys. Show us one. Show the Bad Batch trying to rescue a Jedi or something like that. We got some great stuff off the top of the season with Caleb Dune. And I loved that. I want to see more of that. I want to see them kind of interacting with them and seeing, because, like, what is their opinion on it? What do they think? They really don't, like, come back to that. They're like, okay, we've been ordered to kill the Jedi. Why? That's kind of weird. And then they never really come back to that. I want to see more of that dynamic.
That's a big question, is like, will we see more of the Jedi Purge in this show? And will the Bad Batch be interacting with that storyline? And will we see Mr. Darth Vader show up at some point too, or maybe some more Inquisitors?
I also feel like that's inevitable. I also feel like that's gonna happen. Like, you can't have a Star Wars anything in this era without Vader cameo.
They should save that for the final season, though. And we've talked about this before. Like, when you bring in Vader, it's almost impossible to then top that with a villain. Right, like, Vader is the ultimate, like, you know, sort of ace card. Like, you can't go bigger than Darth Vader. And once you bring in Darth Vader, and you know, Rebels, I think, kind of learned this. It's hard to have any other villains really feel like a threat. And so I hope if they do bring in Vader, which I agree does feel a little bit inevitable. I hope they they save that for the end. But they do have that Vader character model that they saved, that they created for the final scene of the Clone Wars. And
yeah,
it's hard to just once you've created that, it's hard to just leave it there and not play with it. Once you get the Darth Vader toy, it's hard to just sort of say, all right, well, we're going to stick with Vice Admiral Rampart over here for a little while longer.
Yeah, it's like you have all these action figures, and oh no, you can't play with the Darth Vader action figure.
No. Yeah.
You can't play with the most popular action figure in the history of action figures. No, not allowed.
It would also, talking about Rebels, like it would be interesting. I wonder if they would go in the direction of, I don't know how the book timeline works out, but like, could we run into a captain or a lieutenant Thrawn at some point, early on, and see that maybe they just one little cameo from that blue guy because he's in everything now, and apparently he's going to be in everything from now on. So they want to see that.
Yeah, speaking of everything from now on, we should talk a little bit more about the final scene. You guys have both referenced that it's Mount Tantus. And we learned that from the concept art on StarWars.com. I mean, all signs point to Nala Se being involved in some sort of Exegol business, right? That feels like that's where we're going.
Yeah, that's all over this. Like the fingerprints, Palpy's fingers are all over this. Fingerprints are all over this. And, I think it only makes sense. I think I like that. I think inevitably we're building towards Palpatine, like explaining that, doing the somehow Palpatine returned. We're getting the long version of that. You wanted an explanation? Well, you're getting it. All right. Dave Filoni's going to do the explaining now. Because Oscar Isaac didn't have enough time. But I think ultimately, I think it also will be something else. I think we're going to find out something else. I think it would be too easy to go like, oh, it's just going to explain how Palpatine came back. We know Palpatine came back. There's going to be something else along the lines, and something about maybe, I think another clone army will probably be thrown into this mix or something like that. They're doing something with cloning. I don't think it's just Palpatine, but I'm interested to see like what are they doing, and like the fact that they just that could be just a code name for the planet because it's Wayland is spelled a little bit differently, and it's Mount Tantus. It could be something different, but I really hope they just lean into this and go like, okay, we're going full Heir to the Empire, go with it.
They're not allowed to do stuff like that. That's like codenaming a character Mara Jade and then having it be like Deruit Joba in the show. Like, no.
Yeah, no. I think they knew exactly what they were doing when they put out that concept art with that name. I think they knew that they're setting that stuff.
Filoni's back with his secret Twitter account going. They noticed it.
Yeah,
I just want some Talon card and some Issa Amiri. That's what I want.
Yeah, with all of this, Heir to the Empire stuff, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how much they stick to the books and how much they make it their own. I'm very much in the camp of making it their own. Granted, the story in the books is so good that's going to be a challenge,
right?
But I feel like I've heard that story. I've seen that story. I don't need to see it again. I want what I'm looking for from Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, I guess, to an extent, and of course Bad Batch, is some new stuff that references the old stuff, that plays with some of those same ideas, maybe, but that tells us something. It tells us a story we haven't seen before, at least a story we haven't seen before in this format. So I hope that they're introducing all of this stuff as Easter eggs, as nods, as acknowledgments of the past, and because they have a new story that needs similar locations, so let's just use those locations. But I'm not really interested, and maybe I'm in the minority here, but I'm not really interested in the show and in this current Star Wars stuff becoming adaptations of previous stories. I want to see new things.
Except when the stories are amazing.
and jumping off my earlier point, like I think I don't think the Bad Batch are going to be trying to stop Palpatine from cloning himself. Like I don't think that's going to be the main plot to do. There's going to be some other thing that the Bad Batch, like specifically clone related, possibly the fate of the clones that exist, or perhaps the creation of a new clone army or something like that. That's going to be a threat to them.
Yeah. I think it's too early to in the timeline to be telling the story, quote unquote, of Palpatine's return. Like that stuff I think you can allude to and suggest, like, oh, well, they used Nalisay's notes. Those notes were passed on to the people on Exegol who maybe use that to start working on some of these things. But it doesn't have to be whatever story the Bad Batch is going to tell with this that they're teasing. I don't think Hunter is going to accidentally discover that, oh my God, the Emperor has plans to clone himself and we have to stop it. I don't think we're going to find that out. That maybe there's a story down the line where somebody discovers that, but I don't think it's going to be in this one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think that's like, there's going to be something like, I'm just wondering, like, where are the clones? Like they had like kid clones. They showed like young clones, like, where are we going? And like what happened to those kids? I want to know.
Yeah.
There's a lot to explore. And it's a good thing that this show is getting at least season 2. Ben, I look, we've got a comment up on the screen from Dr. Holocron about Zillo Beasts. I brought this up on the live stream, and I want to run this by you. When the clones were in the tunnels under the water in the final episode, and they got attacked by that beast, at any moment did you think that, oh, that's a cloned Zillo Beast? Or am I the only one who was insane enough to think that?
I can report that you are the only one insane, but I am envious that I wasn't that insane, because that would have like freaked me out. And the fact that they have that, but I will say they're very coy about that, because it's like a giant turtle thing, and it's got like several fins, and they're like, oh, its species is unknown. Like, what? What are you talking about? You know what the species is. Just tell us. Maybe
wait, if it's unknown, then that means it's Yoda's species. That's what they grow into.
Yeah, obviously it's not the Zillo Beast, but when it first clamped down on it, I just sort of thought like, oh, they're finally picking up on that thread from way back in season 2, and it'll just be a throwaway thing that there's this beast under the water that's the Zillo Beast. But it's as we zoomed out, you could tell, oh no, this is a new thing.
There's got to be somebody at some point, maybe next year or maybe 20 years from now, someone is going to pick up on that thread. You have that one scene. You want me to clone the beast? Like that, there's going to be some kid maybe watching it right now that's going to grow up in like 40 years and go like, I want to make a Star Wars movie about that. I want to clone Zillo Beast Star Wars movie. Yes. That's what the thing I want to make. Future filmmakers, get on it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. All right. Well, I think we can maybe leave it there for Bad Batch talk. But let's, for old times, Podforce 99's sake, let's go around the table one last time and give some final thoughts on season 1 of the Bad Batch. And Ben, for old time's sake, we'll throw it to you first.
Oh, is this final thoughts overall the season?
Overall on the season, yeah, and the finale if you want.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this one. I'm not saying I had some gripes with it, like Echo. Yeah, there's some things, but I still think overall there's been very few really strong first seasons of Star Wars animation, particularly, and I think Bad Batch really kicked it off really well and did so a lot of great things really quickly. I'm obviously, if this was the only season, I would be very disappointed, but it's not. And I'm glad we're getting a season 2. I'm glad we're going to get some more, fleshing out of these characters. And so, I'm very satisfied with the season. I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming next. And, it did a lot of things that I didn't expect, but also I think just the focus on the characters, fleshing these guys out, I think was really well done. And I think, it was nice to come back. Yeah, there was some episodes in there that I could have done without. I'll be honest there. And overall, I'll probably give 8 out of 10 for the season, probably. And I'll give that last episode. I'll give that last episode a 9 out of 10. I really will. I think it was really solid. Really, the finale, because I was genuinely my interest in the show was kind of towards the end was kind of like, how interested in the show am I? Because a couple of those episodes were kind of like, I'm bored. But the finale, like, really, like, it made me, especially, like, real quick, just one tangent. The moment where Crosshair joins with the Bad Batch in the training room and they get together and fight. I got chills in that moment. And I think a lot of people did. But, like, that was the moment for me. Like, I love this show. That was the moment that kind of cemented it as like, this show is something special for me, and not just, I'm not just watching it because it's Star Wars. It's something really, it hit home with me. So that made me very much looking forward to season 2. So yeah, that's my thing.
All right, Chris, final thoughts, season 1?
Yeah, I thought it was a solid first season. When you're comparing it to like the first season of Rebels, first season of Resistance, first season of Clone Wars, I think it's right up there with all of them, and maybe somewhere in the middle towards the top of those. I think the thing that's difficult about it is if you were to compare it to like what Clone Wars season 8 could have been, I don't think it was quite there. Like I just can imagine in my head, like when I'm looking at, the Lost Missions in season 7 and even season 5 of the Clone Wars, I felt like the quality of the storytelling was a little bit higher in those than we've gotten with the Bad Batch. But they're resetting. These are new characters. It took many, many seasons for the Clone Wars to get to that point, for us to care about Ahsoka that much, that we were all, a mess at the end of season 5. Like they couldn't have done that episode in season 1. It wouldn't have worked. So I think with the Bad Batch, it's a great start. It's kind of unfortunate that they had to reset the universe a little bit after developing so many characters. But I think that in the long run, this is going to be good, because when we get into further seasons, I think that this show will have had a really good, solid foundation in season 1, and will just get better and better and better, because they're working off from a point where, they're not hitting all their home runs in season 1. There's got a lot more space to go. So, like, I'll give it like an 8.5 out of 10. Like, I wouldn't say that it's quite as good as the saga, but it's up there. It's definitely up there with some of the stuff that we've seen on screen that George Lucas or Rian Johnson or J.J. Abrams contributed to.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of falling in that 8.5 out of 10 range for the season. So I'll split the difference between the two of you and say 8.25. That's what I'll go with. Like every season of every show, there are some episodes that I like better than others. I could do without ever watching that episode. I think it's called Infested ever again. That didn't hold much interest for me.
I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah. But then there were other episodes like the Ryloth two-parter that I thought were just terrific and just so much fun that I look forward to revisiting again at some point. I'll probably do a season 1 rewatch to get ready for season 2. So I look forward to that down the line. I think the show did a good job of making me care about at least some members of the Bad Batch. That was something I was a little bit worried about going into this show, was how do you take this kind of cliche group of 4 characters, for 5 characters, and make them into something that really works, and makes me want to see them week to week. And introducing Omega was a big part of that. I think that really gave the show an injection of energy that it was needing, and an injection of heart. And so I think overall it was a strong, solid start, but there's still plenty of room to grow and plenty of places where it can go in the future that will make the show even better, and will have it exist next to some of the best in Star Wars. So yeah, at a solid 8.25 for me. And I also just want to say real quick about Pod Force 99, because we didn't get to sort of do a proper final episode for it. We kind of slapdashed one together with our live stream, but doing that show was so much fun for this season. Those discussion podcasts are some of my favorites, and that was that was the 9th season of TV that we've covered in that way.
Wow.
We did three seasons of Rebels, 2 seasons of Mando, 2 seasons of Resistance, a season of Clone Wars, and now a season of this. And so 9 seasons doing it that way. And now that we've shifted to video and that they're shifting their release schedules to Wednesday, I don't know what the future necessarily holds for that type of episode from us. But doing them have been such a treat and have been such a joy. And this final season, or maybe not final season, but the season of Pod Force 99 was one of my favorites. We had some just terrific guests.
Oh yeah.
There are plenty more that I wish we could have had on if we had gone on for 6 more episodes in season 1 or something. But we had some really, really fantastic guests and some really insightful and exciting discussions that I really just want to thank all of our guests and everybody who listened, who enjoyed those episodes, because they really were a pleasure and a joy to do. So let me shout out all of our guests from season 1 before we move on. So shout out to Kieran, Jordan, Jonah, Din, Hannah, Tyler, Loden/Logan, Star Raptor, Maggie, Chad, Iraj, Matt, Patrick, and Claire. Thank you all so much for season 1 of Pod Force 99. And who knows what season 2 will look like, if there is a season 2, but we will continue to have those discussions, and we will continue to bring on some guests. Who knows what season 2 or Book of Boba Fett will look like now that we've shifted our medium ever so slightly. But thank you everybody for a great season of Pod Force 99. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the next new piece of Star Wars. This is actually the next new thing, and that is, of course, Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, the season 2 special thingy. I can't actually remember what it's supposed to be called.
It's a musical.
The musical. I can't remember, but it's all about the finale, and they released a really terrific preview clip from the episode on the official Star Wars YouTube today. And I think it features Dave Filoni talking and a lot of Mark Hamill on set. I think we should watch it again all together, and then we'll talk some more about this. So let's watch that.
This job is great in so many ways, and I think people think the job is great because we get to tell the story, because we do these effects, because we get these experiences, because we go to Celebration, right? But also great is just standing on the side and watching somebody. Again, like I said, I saw the child inside John that he experienced Star Wars. I sit there with Peyton. You see your crew just staring at Mark, and you realize they're remembering what it meant to them. And you realize that you've been a part of constructing something that's giving that experience to people. This good feeling, which fundamentally Star Wars should deliver a good feeling, an uplifting feeling in you and your family, your kids, whatever.
Geez, that Filoni guy, he sure knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
I love what he says. Like, and this guy, he could talk about anything and I'd listen, but especially in this clip, how Star Wars should deliver an uplifting feeling.
Yeah.
And every now and again you hear from people that they want Star Wars to become really dark and really gritty, and they just want to see a movie of Darth Vader murdering people in a hallway for 6 hours. And it's like, no, that's not it. That's not what Star Wars is. That's not what made us fall in love with Star Wars in the first place. The original film works so well because that ending brings everything together, and it makes you feel so uplifted, whether it's Han coming back, Ben's voice communing with Luke blowing up the Death Star, the celebrations with Leia, R2 being there for the end. Like, all of it is there to uplift you and to bring you joy. And Filoni has this ability to just point out the small things in Star Wars and just point them out, things that we all kind of already know, and point them out and make us realize just how profound this little space saga that we like really is.
Yeah, I mean, to uplift, you have to lift up from something else. And, the darkness has kind of been the beginning. It's just about the order of things. You don't want to end on that dark note. You want to always end on that positive note. And that's something that George Lucas did well. And Dave Filoni is, the purest protege of George Lucas. So, like, you look at the darkest Star Wars movie that George Lucas made, which was probably Revenge of the Sith, where there was so much horrific stuff in that movie, you still had that ending with Tatooine and Alderaan that was so hopeful and was uplifting. And you know, you look at New Hope, it's like there was still some crazy darkness in there. I mean, you saw Owen and Beru's burnt skeletons, and which was very difficult. I always skip that scene and like close my eyes when I was a kid watching that because it was too much. And then you got a whole planet with millions of people on it blown up as well in that film. But it's about the trajectory, the beats, and how it ends on that absolute high with the Death Star blowing up, and then that ceremony with the medals at the end. And yeah, Dave, I literally was going to say George Filoni. George Filoni gets it. Man, yeah, Dave Filoni totally gets how to do that. You know, he's the person who understands the whatever between the lines of Star Wars, just kind of the feeling of Star Wars. I don't think anyone understands the feeling of Star Wars better than Dave Filoni, and it's great hearing him articulate it so well in that clip, and it shows you why that ending of that show was so amazing with The Mandalorian season 2, because you know you have people there that get it. I feel like Jon Favreau, he gets it too. Everybody working on that show, they really get it. They're on the same page about that, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what is like considered like the darkest ending in Star Wars that we've gotten so far. Because like I'm thinking most of the Star Wars movies end pretty hopeful. Like even Rogue One is probably the darkest. Darth Vader murdering people, you know, a lot of people love that.
All murdered.
Everybody dying.
Right. But it still ends. The last shot is hope. Yes. That thing. They still at that movie, they're like, okay, we're gonna do the fan service stuff. We're gonna give you this amazing scene of Darth Vader. I'm not hating on that scene. I love that scene. But it still ended with, okay, this is about hope. This is about making you feel good, which is exactly what Filoni is saying here. I think there's something to be said about that I would hate to walk out like, what if The Empire Strikes Back just like ended with I am your father? It could have ended there. Like that would have been a hell of an ending. But it wasn't the right ending. It was, oh, well, rendezvous on Tatooine. We're going to get Han back and we're going to do all this. That's Star Wars. That is that hopeful feeling. I don't want to be bummed out watching Star Wars. I want to feel something. I maybe want to cry sometimes. I maybe want to get angry, but ultimately I want to know. And so again, metaphor for life. You know, you're going to go through some crappy stuff, but at the end of the tunnel, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to get through it. You know, it may be bad for a while, but you'll get through it. I don't subscribe to the whole, like, it has to be dark and gritty and it has to be, no, I'm not feeling that. I'm with Filoni here.
Yeah. I agree. I want to highlight this comment from Joel. Is this people are just cynical these days and they want Star Wars to reflect.
Exactly.
Sadly. And I think that's true. I think that's a good point. But that was also the case in the 70s. At the beginning of the Empire of Dreams documentary really highlights this, where I think they actually have Walter Cronkite in there talking about, you know, what the mood was in the 70s with, you know, the Vietnam War and Watergate and everything else that was going on in the world at that time, and you know just how dark it could feel, and how cinema and the movies that were being made at the time were you know leaning into that. And then Star Wars came along and presented you something that really was uplifting, and part of the reason why it became this cultural phenomenon was it was the story that people needed at that time. And I hope Star Wars can be that again. You know, I think Rise of Skywalker had a chance to do it, and I think JJ gave it a pretty good try. He gave it a good swing at trying to find that, trying to end the movie on that joyous note. But I don't know if he quite succeeded, because I don't know if the movie leading up to that point necessarily hit all the marks it needed to. But as we go forward, I hope that Star Wars can continue to do that. And I think the way Mando season 2 ended was pretty hopeful. I think the way Bad Batch season 1 ended was kind of hopeful. And you know it was dark and sad in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But you know that whole episode was at night. It was underwater. All of the scenes were in shadow, and then they're standing there on the beach or on the landing platform, and it's daytime, it's dawn, it's a new dawn.
It's not raining, which never happens on Camino.
Exactly. So I hope that Star Wars can continue to find that, and I hope that as the Mando verse continues to go forward, it reaches its ultimate conclusion someday. I hope that it finds that balance, and I hope that, again, having Filoni be in there really is could capture some of that Lucas magic and get them back to where they need to be.
Yeah. And another thing about this clip, just seeing Mark again in like the fact he put on the costume.
Yeah.
The fact that he's in that classic costume, and just amazing like that. I mean, Filoni again, like articulating like how amazing that would be, like that would kill a person. I would think. I hope that people were okay, because I think I would have died if I had been in that room and saw Mark Hamill walk in with a green lightsaber wearing that black suit with a freaking Grogu in his arms. Like, come on.
Yeah. What I'm going to find really interesting in this special episode, in the finale, making of the finale or whatever it's called, is how much was Mark there for, and how much was it the body double? Because even in that clip, like, you see Mark walk in, and then you see the person carrying Grogu away seems to be somebody else,
right?
And it's gonna be really interesting to see how they did all of that, and how they worked it all together and made it be as good as it could be, I suppose.
Yeah, I wonder did Mark do any of the action? I mean, he has recent lightsaber training. I wonder if he did any of those cool action moves, because we never saw the person's face.
Yeah. Interesting.
Probably not, but
you never know. I'm going to kind of break the format of our show a little bit, and we're going to read an email.
What? Just do it. Yes.
Yeah. We're
gonna shut us. The YouTube's going to shut us down. They're like, no, you can't do that. No, not right now. It's too soon for that.
You're reading an email because it relates to the Disney Gallery stuff, and I don't know if we're going to have time for more emails today, and I wanted to get this one in before the episode airs. This one comes from Patrick. Patrick writes, "Hello, SWU. Patrick here, longtime listener and small Patreon contributor. I just wanted to reach out and share my thanks to you, to your podcast. I've listened to you guys probably from the inception of the Star Wars Underworld. Yes, that long. I'm an editor in Los Angeles, and your podcast is a necessity while sitting in LA traffic from gig to gig. I've always loved your commentaries, theories, and insightful discussions week after week." Now, I know what you're thinking. Why are you just reading the compliments? Where's the stuff? I have to read the whole email. I gotta get it all in there. I'm not just pumping up our egos. I'm pumping up our egos. Okay. On to the actual why we're actually reading this email now in this part of the show. He goes on to say, "I wanted to write and share with you a theory of my own, but it doesn't have to do with the lore of the Star Wars universe, but rather the Disney Gallery special that's airing on the 25th of this month. Your discussion over the past couple of weeks regarding the hiring of Shamook, the YouTuber who created the highly praised deepfake of Luke Skywalker, had me thinking, what if the hiring of Shamook is to update the shot from the rescue, and that the premiere of the newly composited shot will air the night of the Gallery special? Now, I'm sure he's been hired for the new Indiana Jones film, but the timing of his hiring did get me thinking that they could also have hired him to update Luke. After all, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has updated shots from WandaVision, and in my experience, deliveries to streaming services are routinely updated for quality control purposes. Yeah. Maybe this will invoke some discussion on your show. It would be interesting if Lucasfilm indeed updates the shot. They would effectively be following in the footsteps of George Lucas. That's true. Again, thank you all. Thank you for all of your hard work, and may the force be with you. Well, thank you, Patrick, for that email.
Great email.
I like the theory. I
mean, they've literally done this in The Mandalorian. Remember Gene's guy? You can't see him anymore. They killed him. They took him out. And rest in peace, Gene's guy. So,
I forgot about Gene's guy. Yeah. Bring him in. Bring
So,
him in.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're not above it. Yeah, they did edit the whole ending of WandaVision and made everyone think that Doctor Strange was like a little bubble in the background. No, that wasn't it. It's just they just changed. They took a few trees out for some reason. But anyway, they could do this. I mean, it's on. No one owns this on a disc. Maybe you do, but it's bootleg. You downloaded it legally. So no one owns this officially. It's all online, so they could change it right now, and it would take, someone would immediately notice it, because there's always someone watching it going like, I noticed that thing changed in the background. So I like this idea, especially as someone who wasn't overly thrilled with that, Luke.
Yeah. I'm on board. I think that's fun. I'd like to, as we said when we talked about the deep fake, like I still don't think that one quite gets it right either. But maybe if you took the two of them and smashed them together, maybe there's.
I mean, that guy probably didn't have much of a budget to do his version. Imagine if you have all of Disney saying, "All right, we'll pay you to do it right." I'm sure he could do it a lot better.
Yeah,
all the reference photography, all of that. I'm assuming they probably did that scene over and over again.
Every hair on Mark Hamill's chin in HD from all 45 years of Star Wars.
But how they did it. Like, they got Mark to do the scene and then just block off the camera and just had the same guy do it over again and just pasted his expression onto the other guy's face. Like, that's how they did it. And if they could just get someone to just do it better, spend more time on it, get it more perfect, why not?
Yeah. Why not? Just do it. If you have the ability to improve Star Wars in a way, just go for it. I don't think they'll call attention to it. I think I feel like that's something that maybe George might have done back in the day. He might have called attention to it, or somebody.
Or we're going to put out the movie in theaters again because we've made this change.
Yeah.
So,
Or not calling attention to it might be a reaction to the special editions. Like, had the, I'm thinking like, it's obviously the big changes in the special editions people would have caught no matter what. If you change Greedo from not shooting at all to shooting first, somebody's going to catch that eventually, and people are going to lose their mind. But there's some of the other changes, like some of the smaller ones, people don't even notice them, but they're there. And if people say, "Oh, I hate the special edition," but I bet if you showed them the original version, they'd be like, "Hey, what happened to all those cool shots of the X-Wings?" You'd be like, well, "That was never there." So I think, not calling attention to it, someone will figure it out, but only the people that really want to know will.
And it won't be a huge change. This will be probably very subtle, just changes in the performance. It'll be largely the same. And so, will it even be noticeable that much, to the untrained eye?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we'll talk more about the Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, the season 2 finale, special musical, whatever, animated series.
Mark Hamill better be singing in that thing. Better.
Can Mark sing? Has he sung in anything? Do we know?
He's a Muppet Show. He sang.
Oh yeah. Okay. Get him in front of the mic. Get him singing a little bit.
I feel the Joker has to have sung at some point something.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll talk more about that next week once we've had a chance to see it. Remember, it comes out on the 25th, which is Wednesday, not Friday. So we will actually be able to talk about it then. All right, but talk about it on next week's show. But sticking with the next with the Mandalorian, let's talk a little bit about season 3 and the long-awaited question of when will that thing finally go into production? We've been waiting. It's been 8 months since the season 2 finale. When are they going to actually start shooting season 3? Well, one person who might know is a Grief Karga actor and director of a season 2 episode, Carl Weathers. He was at Steel City Comic Con this past weekend, and he did a panel and he talked a little bit about the future of the Mandalorian. And it was part of a question he was asked about directing in general. So we're going to play a clip. He gives a little update on season 3, and then he talks about why the Mandalorian is so important to him. And it does tie in with what that Filoni fellow was saying as well. So let's play that clip.
We're going to start a new season of The Mandalorian in the next month. Yeah. And I get to be in front of the camera again, and I get to direct again.
Awesome.
So I hope you all stay on the lookout for it, watch it, support it, please, because I'm not just proud of my work. I'm really proud of the show and to be a part of it. There are some things that, like, I have 2 sons who are probably older than you are. I'm serious. And I have 4 grandchildren now. Okay? So the beautiful thing about it is, for them, it's not about being an actor with me. That's Big Daddy. That's who I am. Kind of chokes me up. But the work that I do, I want them to see something that they can be proud of, And with The Mandalorian, it's one of those things, because kids can watch it. And I love that. I love that. Thank you.
There we go. Carl Weathers.
Great.
Guy gets it. That guy gets it. But the big reveal was kind of at the beginning. Next month, they begin production.
There you go.
Heck yeah.
And Grief Karga's back. His friends probably won't be. We know at least one of them won't be. And another one probably shouldn't be either, given what's been in the news. But Grief will be back. Everybody loves Grief Karga. He'll be back, and he'll be directing. So I'm sure we'll start getting some more rumors about who else will be directing. I assume, a lot of the same people who did previous seasons. I suspect Dave will direct an episode. Favreau maybe will jump behind the camera again. Bryce Dallas Howard, be great to have her back.
Yes.
Seems like Kenobi is finishing shooting these days, so maybe they could get Deborah Chow to come back. Rick Famuyiwa, if he's not back, I suspect it's because he's pretty busy with something else. And who knows, maybe Robert Rodriguez, after they're doing all that work on Book of Boba Fett, they'll bring him back. I suspect we'll start hearing those rumblings in the not too distant future, but then they'll keep everything quiet, just like they always do.
And look, can I make one request here? Because George is inevitably going to make his debut on set at some point this season. He makes a visit every season, seems to be.
Yeah.
Get him in that director's chair.
Oh my gosh.
Do it.
Oh wow, that would be the most amazing thing ever.
It'll never happen, but I would love it if it did.
I just got to keep saying it. All right.
It would be terrific, but I don't think George wants to do that. I think his directing days are behind him, unless it's for little short films that he sends to Spielberg and Coppola and lets them watch.
I want to see this. Is not fair. I can't live with the idea that George Lucas is making movies and I can't see them. How do I intercept these transmissions? I mean, I'm assuming he's shooting them on film. No, it's George Lucas, so he's doing it futuristically. Okay, so they're cut into clips on TikTok. It's a private TikTok. It's like 60 seconds at a time, the entire movie.
Yeah.
200 TikToks,
and
that's
somehow
how he's setting them.
Somehow it's in 3D too. Somehow it's it's all of that
3D TikTok.
Does anyone check the GWL77 TikTok account? Go find that one.
Yeah, I think his handle is Big G141.
Yes, that's definitely his handle. Yes.
He's been on TikTok for a while, longer than anyone else.
Yeah, he's got some moves. He's got some dance moves.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Let's move off of that. Let's talk a little bit of comic book news. Comic book news. This is pretty exciting. This was announced today or yesterday, sometime this week, by IGN. They had the scoop that there is a brand new Star Wars comic book series. It's a limited series that will debut in November 2021. It's 5 issues long, and it's called Star Wars Crimson Reign. It continues the story. It continues the stories that was started in the War of the Bounty Hunters comic that I believe is still ongoing. And if you were following the War of the Bounty Hunters comic, or even if you weren't, you probably heard this. That was the comic that brought back Kira from Solo, a Star Wars story, and brought her into the original trilogy era. Well, this story is going to be all about Kira, and it's written by Charles Soule, who says this about the story. While Kira plays a huge role in War of the Bounty Hunters, that event is really a Boba Fett story. I have a bigger story that I'm going to tell with Kira and Crimson Dawn, and it's all connected to the reasons she kicked things off in War of the Bounty Hunters in the first place. You'll learn more about that in the closing pages of War of the Bounty Hunters #5, out in October, and I think fans have no idea how exciting this new story will feel. Also revealed was a cover for, I believe, the first issue. And there's some interesting faces on there. As you can see, it's covering up Ben on the on the video version. You've got Darth Vader, you got Kira, you got Luke and Leia, you got Dr. Aphra, you got that character from the Uprising video game. And a character called Ren, who a lot of people are talking about. I assume he has something to do with the Knights of Ren.
Hey, he's the preceding Ren of the Knights of Ren. He's the guy that shows up in the, I think it's the what's the fall Ben Solo turning into Kylo Ren. That whole comic that Charles Soule did.
The Rise of Kylo Ren. Yeah, the book I refuse to read. I love Charles Soule, but I have no interest in that book. From what I've seen of it, and this is not, and obviously I haven't read it, so I don't know for sure, but it feels like it's like, I don't know. It feels, what I've heard suggests to me that it contradicts some stuff in Last Jedi that I feel like shouldn't have been contradicted.
I heard the same things, and I completely agree.
Yeah, so
maybe I shouldn't have judged. Maybe I should read it before judging it. But I heard some things. I'm like, what? It did that? That's weird.
Yeah, I love Charles Soule. I think he's a terrific author, and I think he's a terrific Star Wars author. And he's a really nice person. I met him and interviewed him. He's a good guy. But that stuff, I don't know. That feels like it felt like they were bending over backwards to say something that didn't need to be said. Is all I'll say. But that said, I know nothing of this Ren fella, and I have no opinion on whether he's a good character or a bad character to include. I just know I'm not reading that other book. This is interesting. Like I'm excited to have more Kira stories. I absolutely am. But I saw this news and I felt a little disappointed and sad. And again, it has nothing to do with the comic or the author or anything like that. It feels to me, and I have been known to be wrong about things, so I will cross my fingers and my toes that this is another one that I'm wrong about. But it feels to me like this story wouldn't happen if they had even flimsy plans to do more with Kira on screen.
I hate hearing that.
And when they brought her into the War of the Bounty Hunters, I sort of maintained a little bit of hope that it was sort of like, oh, we're setting something up. We'll include her here and we'll tease out the fact that she's going to be a character in the Mando era, because I still think that would be a great idea.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that they're saying like, oh, we're continuing her story in the comics suggests to me that any plans that they may have had have officially been kiboshed, and they're not doing it. Emilia Clarke's not coming back anytime soon, and so they'll pass it off to the comic book creators, because if they had even a half-baked idea that, we've got a hole in the schedule in 2024 and we'd love to do the Crimson Dawn adventures on Disney Plus. They wouldn't be telling Charles Soule, yes, you can do a Kira comic book. They would be saying, you could maybe include her as a cameo, or you could do a one shot, but even a limited series, I think they'd be saying no to, because they want to keep those doors open. I'm going to hold on to just a little bit of optimism, a little bit of hope that again, she could show up down the line, but any stuff that's immediately post Solo or anything leading up until this comic book, I feel like it's off the table for the time being, which is too bad. That said, I'll probably read this comic when it comes out in a trade paperback format, because I'm intrigued. No, I'm not going to lie. They'll get $20-$30 out of me to read this comic.
Yeah, unfortunately, I completely agree. I think if a Solo 2 or anything along those lines happens, it's going to be probably far off in the future. That said, I'll play devil's advocate here just for a second and say that I think if you were going to say they're going to, chart off and say, okay, comic writers, you can have this section of the timeline to do whatever you want. Kira's alive. We've gone back and forth in the timeline. Yeah. It would be nice to watch a Solo 2 and not know what happens to Kira, not know that she is alive in the future. We're kind of having that stolen away from us, but still, it could work. I think this era of like Han and Carbonite and having the big three and Lando and all this stuff, that's a good era to do in comics, because if they were to do that in a TV show, that would be a lot. And you're talking about recasting. You have Lando, you don't have Han, you can't even use Alden because he's in Carbonite. You have to recast, Leia and Han, and like, it's a lot. If they did that, Ben, sorry to interrupt, but if they did that and they showed the Carbonite block, would they use the Harrison one, or would they remake it with Alden? I hope we get that question answered one of these days. I really do. That would be awesome. But it's an easy thing to do in comics, whereas it would be much harder to do in things. Whereas, if we do get a Solo 2, a Crimson Dawn story, a Kira movie, whatever you want to call it, something in live action involving Emilia Clarke, it would be easier to do it earlier in the timeline, before A New Hope, whatever, because there's still 10 years between Solo and A New Hope, so there's a lot of breathing room there. But yeah.
Ben just saw the comment we put on the screen.
Crimson Dawn. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I should have seen that one coming.
Rick says, as a ginger, Ben is clearly the leader of Crimson Reign.
Oh my gosh. Now that it's video, they can say these things. What have we done?
Yeah.
This is why I need to wear a hat.
That's why you need the top hat next week.
There you go. Place that order, Ben. Place that order.
I'm not gonna go. How much for top hats? Let me see.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I really would love to see more Kira stories. I still think she's super interesting in the era near the Solo movie. Honestly, though, I'm not too worried about this, because I kind of want to see more of her stories before Solo than after Solo. Like, I want to see kind of like how she got into like Crimson Dawn and stuff, like, because there's that time jump. I want to see what happened in that time jump. So perhaps even if they're telling stories in the comics after Solo, if this is where this is, then that still leaves some time open to do some stuff with Emilia Clarke before the movie, as kind of like prequels, just like they're doing with Diego Luna in the prequel, in the Andor show prequel to Rogue One. That's kind of what I want to see, because I think there's so much character development there, and I think that could make us really appreciate Solo more. And I think that could give Solo a bit of a resurgence too, because if Solo becomes the kind of like the end point to a story that's told before, then you could have everybody go through the stories before and then watch Solo again, and then that could be kind of a cool tie-in.
$199. Oh God. Never mind.
Where are you shopping? This is not Top Hats R Us.
I just sent Ben. I just sent you a link for one for 26.50 Canadian. It's not even that expensive.
That's better.
Yeah. Here, let's just derail the show completely. I'm gonna show you this hat that I think you should buy.
837. That's better.
There you go.
There we go.
That's my suggestion.
Because of the bow tie too. That's perfect, and it matches.
Oh, come on! Look, look. What is this? Dumb and Dumber? Come on!
Oh, this is perfect. I can see this.
Yeah,
you can also get what I had in mind. This is not. No.
Yeah, it could be worse. Bet it could be the orange one. That'll make you want to get the blue one. Look at so much better than the orange one.
And the orange one, believe it or not, is more expensive.
Because of course it is.
Oh my god! All right, let me turn that off.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I just to get things back on track. Sorry, audio listeners.
This is why you need to go to YouTube, search for the Star Wars Underworld on YouTube, and then for people on Patreon, this is where your money's going to go to. So, your donations, we'll buy a hat for every $1 you donate.
Yeah, but no. So when you say Kira stories before Solo, do you mean like in the 3-year gap?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that would be really good. There's a chapter in the Solo novelization that goes into some of that I think could really that could be overwritten. I think but it was interesting. Yeah. It was interesting to read just a little bit. But if they could easily overwrite it for a series, I think that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
No, Chad, do not encourage this.
In the comments,
this is
orange or blue hat.
Yeah, for the comments, orange or blue hat, throw them in there. Let us know, and that's what Ben will be wearing next week. Oh my god. All right. I think is there anything more we want to say about Crimson Reign, or shall we
let's move on?
It's a good title.
Don't take away my Solo 2, please.
1 vote for blue, 2 vote for blue. Blue's winning.
Yeah,
where are the votes for orange?
I hate you guys.
There's an orange. All right, 2-1.
I'm just realizing it, and maybe I shouldn't say this because this will color people's votes, but this blue versus orange does seem to be a rerun of the election last November.
Oh no.
I can see the comments now. You're getting political.
Well, blue's winning 3-2.
3-2. But the orange is coming from a state that really matters. I don't guess.
Yeah. The orange has more electoral votes. So
yeah. So
orange is actually ahead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, they're not gonna trust these election results for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but it will come on next week.
This was rigged. I voted orange.
Ben will be like, there's never been a bigger fraud on the Star Wars Underworld people.
It's great actually seeing that for once, because you know he's doing the hand motions when you hear it. To see it.
You have to do that. You can't do it without that.
Yeah.
I have the best top hats, just the best. No one wears a top hat better than I do. Nobody.
Goodbye, new audience. Bye. Although Din does make a good point for all of our Canadian listeners that I will need an orange one for the election that we're having here for the NDP, but that's another that's a whole other topic that we don't have time for. Let's talk about the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Yes, please.
That's what everybody wants us to be talking about, not top hats as an allegory for the 2020 election. Rupert Friend, he's in the show. Seems like a good guy. I mean, he's got friend in his name. He apparently has finished filming his role in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. This was revealed by The Hollywood Reporter, who was reporting on him being in the new Wes Anderson movie. And there's been a lot of characters that have been there's a lot of actors, I should say, from the Kenobi series that have, it seems like they're done. It seems like Kenobi either has wrapped or will wrap soon. it's not likely. It looks to be just about done. It's 4 episodes. How long can it be? How long can they spend filming on this thing? Which makes me wonder about like Book of Boba Fett, seeing how long it took them to film that. But there we go. It's done. It's almost done. It's almost in the book, in the books, and then we'll get to see it next year. It's exciting stuff. Do you think Lucasfilm will put out anything saying we're done? And you think they
usually that's on the directors. Usually the directors will do that.
Yeah, but I don't know. It'd be nice to, like JJ put out that great picture when they finished filming episode 9 of Daisy, John, and Oscar all hugging each other in the desert. It'd be great. They probably won't do this, but it would be great to get a picture, even if they're not in costume, but of Ewan and Hayden together. Just the two of them.
That would melt the internet. That would destroy us all.
Yeah, they could be in street clothes. They don't have to be wearing their costumes. They could just be in street clothes, and just a picture of them on set, or maybe holding up the title card or something. Like, you remember Ron Howard's video announcing that glorious title Solo: A Star Wars Story, where he's like films this video on set. He's like, "Hey, can we tell people what we're calling it?" And then he flips over this giant poster board that he's holding. Maybe they can give them a nice piece of poster board and get them to stand together. But
anything, I'll take anything.
Any little bit. So
Ewan and Hayden just wearing top hats would be great too.
One has a blue one has an orange one.
Obviously.
And it would just confuse the internet.
Yeah. Jesse in our chat says Ewan his guess is that Ewan will make a subtle hinted post when it's wrapped. Is he on social media anywhere?
Yes, he is. I think he has Instagram. I think I've seen his Instagram. It's all a bunch of motorcycle stuff.
I thought he deleted that.
Maybe I can't keep track of celebrities deleting their Instagrams. It happens like every month. Like I can't.
Yeah.
I'm searching on Instagram right now, and I'm not seeing anything that looks official.
All right, maybe he's on. He's moved over to the Twitter.
Maybe, or maybe he's got it. Maybe he's got a TikTok.
Oh, I'm sure Ewan of all people has a TikTok.
Yeah. Big E for 141.
Yep.
Yeah,
sounds about right.
Yeah.
There is a long way up official Twitter account. It's for his TV show. But I don't see an Ewan McGregor Twitter.
He's disappeared from the internet. Well, maybe that's because he did it while he was filming, just so we wouldn't accidentally pocket upload a picture to it from the set.
Just follow Ewan McGregor Daily. They'll probably have something about it. Yeah. If he shows up, they'll be on it.
Ewan McGregor Snapchats from the set of Kenobi. We have exclusive access to Ewan McGregor's private Snapchat. Here it is.
All right. Let's keep going. We got a rumor story. I'd say the words, but we don't have a video intro for that just yet. So
I'm so sad. I was wondering what's going to happen.
Yeah. So I won't. I'll reserve saying the official words because this will be an unofficial version of the rumor segment, seeing as we don't have I don't have an intro. But that is something to think about for the future. But this is a rumor that I may or may not have heard about. That John Boyega, you know him as Finn in the sequel trilogy. He may be back for a Disney Plus series. And that this is actually a project we've heard a little bit about before. You guys remember a year or more ago?
Right.
It was definitely more than a year, but I think it was sometime in 2020. There was a rumor that J.D. Dillard and Matt Owens were developing a Star Wars project of some kind. They never said if it was a film or a series, but the rumor was that those two were creating a new Star Wars project. And this week, that hashtag show is reporting that the project is now, or is a Disney Plus series, and that it centers on Finn, and that they are going to bring back John Boyega to play Finn. Now, I'm going to read from their website here. They say plot details are light, but we're told that John Boyega will return as Finn. The series would explore his backstory, including how he came to be in the First Order. It would also show that that the character is going in, or also show where the character is going in a post Rise of Skywalker world. The plot in the future will have ties and share a villain with his past, although no further info is available at this time. The series could be a replacement for the Rangers of the New Republic series that's gone by the wayside.
That's interesting.
There's no word if Daisy Ridley or Oscar Isaac are being sought to reprise their roles, but Boyega returning isn't a big surprise. The story comes on the heels of the actor recently acknowledging that he'd be open to a return in Star Wars. That wasn't the first time he talked about reprising Finn either. The topic came up last fall too. We'll keep you in touch. We'll keep you up to date as this story progresses. We'll talk about the idea of a Finn series first, and then we'll talk about how much stock we put into this rumor first. But what do you guys think? What do you think of the idea of seeing the artist formerly known as FN2187 reprise his role or come back for a series?
This has to happen. This is not just cool. If this doesn't happen, it's a travesty. It's wrong if this doesn't happen, because we didn't get enough of Finn. Like his story, was not given a proper ending in my opinion. And that was one of the more disappointing aspects of the sequel films. So we need more Finn and Star Wars, and we need more John Boyega and Star Wars fandom. And so to have the character and the actor back potentially is absolutely necessary, I feel like, to kind of move us forward from the sequels and kind of like bridge things forward, because right now we're kind of stuck. I mean, there's the sequels and then they're working on all this other stuff earlier in the timeline, but there's not really much going on sequel era and forward. We had Resistance, and then nothing really came of that. That was a couple seasons and gone. We need some more solid foundations laid for that next generation of Star Wars, and we need more than just kind of a side canon to go with a resort in our world. Like we need some
Lego
real
specials,
stories.
some Lego specials,
and some Lego specials. I mean, that says it says so much when you have basically what is essentially a parody of Star Wars be like the definitive tie-in material for like 3 of your biggest films. Like how that's crazy that's the best thing that we've gotten, and that's not to knock Lego.
That said, the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special is the best thing we've got.
But that's the best thing that we got.
It was the best thing, but it was also the best thing. It was so good. And
it's a high bar to set. Not every episode of a Finn show could aspire to be as good as that, unironically. It absolutely needs to happen. I'm really excited to hear that there's chatter about this. It does make sense given some talk that we've had from John recently. And I just really hope this happens. Like, I'm going to be very disappointed if this ends up not being true.
Yeah. Ben?
Yeah. I think this is a great idea. I had a similar reaction to a lot of people, like, wait, really? But Boyega coming back to Star Wars? I didn't expect it so soon, and I'm not sure I believe this because of certain comments that he's made. One being, and I quote, "You ain't going to..."
Ben?
Where'd the clip go?
The stupid thing. I went to an article and it started autoplaying. I'm like, who's playing a clip on the stream? I was like, what? I'm sorry. Just discombobulated me for a second. I apologize.
Ben, hold on for a second. Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Yes.
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Star Wars rules. This is momentous. This is exciting. Why, hello there, Ben.
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
He is the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Mr. Ben Hart.
How's it going, everybody?
Continue.
He's had his finger on the trigger all night.
We want to give a shout out to Rick. He just joined the ranks over on Patreon. Thank you, Rick. You're awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we're getting one step closer to those top hats.
Yep.
Gotta fund those top hats somehow, right? Anyway, what I was saying is that I quote John Boyega, "You ain't going to Disney Plus me." That's what he said back in 2019. I think this was during the press tour for The Rise of Skywalker. So at that point, he was obviously had not expressed a lot of the feelings that he did in 2020, but had them in his head and was like, no, thank you. Since then, he apparently had a meeting with Kathleen Kennedy, is kind of maybe patched things up, and, is perhaps more interested. And so I was surprised by this, but I'm all for this. I think obviously Finn didn't get I'm personally I'm okay with Finn's arc. Obviously there's a lot left to be desired, and there was a lot of buzzkill on the fact that he had the lightsaber, then it was taken away from him and he never got back to this. And you got hints that, oh yeah, he is force sensitive, but we're not going to show you that. That's disappointing. And that, I think, his whole character, and I think the opportunity, and I think what's intriguing to me, what might be intriguing to Boyega, which is the fact that he can come back to this character and kind of end it on his own terms. And, Boyega is a filmmaker. He's started his own production company. I would assume that if he's coming back into this, he might have a hand in, he might have an executive producer credit or something like that. He may have more of a hefty hand in the telling of the story versus just acting in it. I think that would be great. I think there's so many different possibilities. What they mentioned here is an idea of going back, telling more of his backstory, but also going forward with the story after Rise of Skywalker. And I'm after Rise of Skywalker, I'm on board anyway, but doing something with Finn. And I think the Marvel shows have already proven that it's a great idea to take these characters and just take one, not take a whole batch of them, take one and pull them out of their elements and tell a story about them and deconstruct that character. And I don't know, you can of course you can go the Jedi route. I think that's a great idea, having Jedi Finn, having him Jedi training. That would be magnificent. But even so, even if it's just immediately after Rise of Skywalker, they're hunting down First Order remnants and he's got to deal with Stormtrooper stuff. That'll be okay with me too. Anything along those lines, giving the character a bit more depth and giving him the focus, which I think he sorely lacked for so much of the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, he was the co-main character of The Force Awakens, and then for the two subsequent movies, he was kind of relegated to a secondary or second or third, or even fourth. You can maybe make the case most important character in the films. And you mentioned, Ben, him wanting to be executive producer, have some sort of creative control. I would almost expect that, given how vocal he has been about, Disney and Star Wars not treating Black characters well. If I were him, wanting to come back, I would, I'd had that issue in the past. I would want to be in a situation where I could have some say in the creative and have the ability to nix ideas that are not good.
And getting to work with two other Black creators, which I'm sure is probably enticing too.
Yeah, exactly. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if John comes back in that role. And you bring up the thing about him saying, "Oh, you're not going to Disney Plus me," and that sort of thing. I think he has to kind of say that sort of thing. I think he wants to have the strongest hand possible when it comes to his return. I think he wants to return on his own terms. I think they all do. I think we saw that a little bit from Daisy Ridley as well. If we're still seeing it from Oscar Isaac, I think that dude, he's not coming back for a while, but when he does, it's because he's ready. And so but we've seen both Daisy and John kind of, move more in the direction of, I'd maybe come back in under the right circumstances. So if we have Finn coming back, I expect Rey will be in there. Maybe not as a regular character, but for at least a guest appearance. I think that would be a huge thing if that happened. I mean, think about how big it was when Ahsoka showed up, or when Luke showed up. To have Rey come back would be on par with those moments in terms of buzz. So I think that, like you guys have both said, there's a lot of story left to be told here. I think picking up on that Stormtrooper storyline, picking up on the Jedi storylines. I think it's important that that they return to those storylines that they've been left to Lego to pick up on that sort of thing. And I think they should come back to it, and we should see some more sequel trilogy content being produced, or sequel trilogy era content being produced for Disney Plus or beyond. So I'm all on board for this. I think this could be really, really good. I'm not sure I believe it. I'm
all right. Okay. Listen. Okay. I know the folks at that hashtag show, and I know where you live. And if you're wrong, I'm gonna come find you.
Yeah, look, I don't want to call anybody's credibility into question. This whole like rumor thing is all just a giant game of telephone, and stuff can very easily be misinterpreted. So I don't mean to question anybody's integrity. But it's one of those things that I almost want it so much that I won't believe rumors about it until it actually shows up.
Yeah.
And that was sort of how I felt about the Kenobi stuff, even when it felt really real and like really on the verge until Ewan walked out on stage at D23. I wasn't gonna fully believe it, and I don't. The comments on the screen is so distracting.
That means you guys are doing the right job. Keep going, doing a good job. Can you distract Dominic in a show?
I have a hard enough time getting the words out that I want under normal circumstances. You guys are throwing up stuff on the screen that is just cracking me up. I love it. And this is why you got to tune in, tune in live.
Can't miss this
to the video version. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, I won't believe it until it's official. But I really want it to be true, and I hope it happens. I hope it's real.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. It's like Luke showing up in The Mandalorian was like, oh, that would be great, but it's never, like, we all considered it and put it out of our mind, go like, it's never going to happen. Too good to be true. And then it happened. So like, we can't really rule anything out. And there's something about this feels like it could be happening. It feels legitimate. And it better be.
And Doc Holocron mentions hoping Jana has a role too. I agree. There's that whole story they were setting up. Where is that?
That's essential. I would dare say getting her back would be darn.
And then that could tie into the Lando series so well, and it's a whole thing. And yes, please.
Yeah. Well, they brought in Jana into Rise of Skywalker, and that's one of those things. Like, I feel like that character originally, in the early versions of that script, must have had a much bigger role. I feel like all of this stuff about a Stormtrooper rebellion and things that people really wanted to see that would have completed Finn's arc in a really interesting way, I feel like that was definitely considered for Rise. Just it wound up being slowly cut out of the movie until what we were left with is what we see in the actual finished movie, where it's kind of alluded to that these two have this shared past, and they talk about it a little bit, but it doesn't go any further. And so if you want to pick up on that Stormtrooper storyline, which I think they should, if they are doing the show, I feel like that's a good place to go with it. Then you should include Jana in there as well, because
totally.
you've already laid the scene for it. And the only reason it might not happen is if they can't get Naomi Aki and John Boyega's schedules to line up right. That would be the only reason I could see not to do it.
Wait until it lines up. Come on. There's a million shows on Disney Plus. We're not in any hurry.
It's like I was saying at the beginning, slow down a little bit. Like, do these things right.
John Boyega is a good young lad. Like, he'll be around for a little bit.
Yeah.
Do it when you can get it right.
Exactly. All right. That is it. That is it for news for this week. That was a lot of news. A lot of news. We won't do listener feedback or live questions this week, although we'll certainly do listener feedback next week. Unless
we've already done a lot of live stuff though. That's been great.
So. It's true. Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you can't tune in live and you want to send in stuff to be discussed on the show, swunderworld@gmail.com is the place to send it. Again, swunderworld@gmail.com. And if you're able to listen live, come on out, post in the comments, see if you can distract us. And sometimes we just start looking at the comments and start answering questions, which is what we did last week. So you never know what might happen when you tune in live. But that's it for the news. I think that's where we'll leave it for this week.
All right, that'll wrap up this episode of the Star Wars Literal Podcast. It's so weird doing this without music, although everybody who's
we got to find a new way to do the outro. Now that we're on video, this like podcasty outro with music and stuff doesn't really work anymore. We got to come up with something new.
Yeah, it's so weird, but we're keeping it going for the audio only listeners. By the way, this is for the video listeners. This is how I do this every week. I'm showing my phone with a timer and go until 6 minutes, and that's how I do it. But we want to thank everybody for listening on podcast apps, and we want to thank everybody for listening live on the Star Wars Underworld's YouTube channel. Please subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs over there. We're super close, and we appreciate each and every one of you that subscribes to the channel, each and every one of you that leaves comments either during our live show or after the fact. Everybody who likes our videos, everybody who hits that notification bell. We appreciate it so much. It's helping us make this into the best thing that we could, and we're so excited to interface with you guys in this new way. So check that out over on the Star Wars Underworld's YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search for the Star Wars Underworld. First video will be that Star Wars Underworld test footage, and after that, it's all our stuff. So make sure you subscribe. We, of course, will be back with another episode of this show, same time, same place next week. So that is 9:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. There we go. That's when we go live on YouTube. And then for our patrons, we go live 30 minutes before that. So make sure that you go over to patreon.com/theswu, sign up over there, and we will give you the live link so you can be involved in our pre-show live. And if you miss it, you can watch it after the fact. Patreon.com/theswu. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
It was my pleasure, as always. Great fun getting into everything with the Bad Batch and the Star Wars Visions and Disney Gallery, whatever, and everything else that's going on with the comics and what else did we talk about? John Boyega as Finn coming back. I hope that happens, and everything else that's going on in Star Wars. It's an exciting time, I can't wait to do all this again next week. No Pod Force 99 this week. I feel weird not having something else to plug, but also. We did two shows a week for 16 weeks there. So I'm happy to just do
a break
for this week. Yeah, exactly, Ben. So go listen to all the old ones, and we'll see everybody next week. I can't wait to do this again in 7 days' time.
And of course, you can follow Dominic at DominicJ25 on social media. Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Oh, this was an absolute pleasure. As always, loved talking about Visions. Very exciting. Wrapping up Bad Batch was very good. And a lot of good stuff to look forward to. A lot of potential stuff. Just saying, a Jedi Finn series. All right, it's better. Okay, I'm done making threats. So next we'll hopefully see you. I will see you. Well, I will actually see you. You'll see us. It's kind of a one-way street here, but you'll see us next week right here. And real quick, I do want to give a shout out to my buddy Jeff. I didn't mention it during the proper plugs. We did a great little hype function talking about the Bad Batch. And so I'm talking a lot about that show on a lot of different shows lately. So keep up with me at Ben Hart with no E.
Awesome. So that's where you can find him, at Ben Hart with no E.
Sorry, I took away the one thing you were supposed to say after I get off this. I'm sorry about that.
No worries. And you can find me at Seek3PO. See, I still have something to say. Chat's going crazy because it is Dominic's birthday in a few days.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Do we do the
sad
birthday
that-
song thing?
I think next week. Well, I think my birthday might be coming up too. I try to forget, so someone remind me.
I
when it
forgot.
is.
I'm the outlier here. Like
yeah,
you guys are like
yeah.
right next to each other.
I think we're gonna have a double birthday party next week.
Yeah, we should have cake somehow.
Yeah.
And party hats.
Yes, I was gonna say, you know what, Ben? You know what I want for my birthday?
Oh God.
If you're watching this later, leave in the comments orange or blue top hat for Ben. We're gonna count up the
I'm
comments.
watching those comments. I'm gonna be watching those comments.
Definitely do that. Let's see, what else do we got to plug? Oh yeah, that merch over at TeePublic. Go to tpublic.com/user/the Star Wars Underworld for our merch. We're so excited for the new stuff we're doing, and we want to give everybody as much time as possible to go and order the old vintage stuff, because that stuff is pretty cool too. And quick shout out to @ShedBTI for producing and engineering our show. All right, that's it. We are out of here. For Ben, for Dominic, for all our great contributors here at the Star Wars Underworld. My name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.